to ordinary lead in the solution of acid. Alright, and what we should see is an increase of bubbling. Now here shortly, I will have to put a dome over top of this to minimize the output of sulfuric gases and fumes. I don't want the acids, these gases, floating around too much in my living space, my environment. Really, a lot of my chemical experiments practicing alchemy here in my living space is not the most safe method of scientific research. I am exposing myself on a regular basis to toxic substances that could harm me in the long run. Let me move it around a little bit and see if we can get a little bit more reactivity going on. I know that this piece of metal that I smashed with a hammer is pretty well coated with iron from my hammer, iron oxide, which iron reacts much slower with sulfuric acid. The reactivity increases when you heat the solution. When it is hotter, let's see if we can't get it to, I'm trying to flip it. I don't know if y'all can see that. I'm trying to get it to flip over. There we go. I raised it. That's better. Should be able to see it changing. You can see that it quickly starts to darken. It starts blackening. Surprised that it's not bubbling more rapidly. I think I might add a little more acid to it from the same container. See if I can zoom in. You can already see the blackening and changing into a form of iron sulfide. Huh. Actually, like I said, I'm quite surprised that it's not bubbling much more rapidly. However, I'm quite positive that if I leave this piece of common lead, ordinary lead, in this bath of acid for several hours, it will eventually break down and it will decay and it will entirely be dissolved until it is nothing but a black soot and crud. A mix of black and green nastiness. But I'll say, if you've ever had an acid leak in your car battery, the crusty stuff that deposits on the nodes of the battery is a mixture of lead and sulfur in the form of lead sulfate. and lead sulfides and whatnot. So but if I were to let this soak overnight, by tomorrow it should be broken down entirely into a very dark, cruddy mix of blackish and greenish cruddy material. I don't know if you guys noticed earlier, when I was moving it around, there were flakes coming off of it, little black bits and flakes breaking and chipping away. I saw it. Again, do not try this at home, guys. This is not, it's not the safest of experiments to conduct, especially in your living space, in your own room. Wondering if the peroxide that I mixed with this has been deionized. Because I did at one point run that same peroxide through a barrier of aluminum for another project, a ruby making experiment I've been working on, which I will post about later. I don't know if y'all can see around the sides of the metal the bubbling that's occurring on the surface. I don't have any more pure peroxide. If I did, I'd show you what happens to lead and peroxide. It's hard to find videos of lead dropped in sulfuric acid solutions. But this is rather highly concentrated sulfuric acid, except for this particular solution. But the acid that it came from a mason jar up on my shelf that is highly concentrated, very pure sulfuric acid. Now, but this particular solution, which is the same as that, it is very, I guess it might be diluted by the water and peroxide that I added to this acid, so I'm not sure. However, I do know that the acid will eat through this, and this lead, this common ordinary lead, will be converted into lead sulfate and lead sulfide. It should be a mixture of both, depending on the number of lead atoms versus the number of sulfur atoms and oxygen atoms present in this liquid. See if I can zoom in better. Oh yeah, now you can see how badly it is breaking down. You see the lead sulfides breaking off of it.